I figure I'll get started. Hi, everyone. Those in the TCS office, hello and welcome. I'm Nicole. Hi, Kim. Hi, Lena. Hi, team. And everyone online, thank you so much for continuing to be with us. My name is Nicole Zekes, and I am one of the instructional designers with TCS Education System. And when I decided to put together a little bit of a presentation for this summit and the conference, I thought it was really important to talk a little bit about instructional design and what our team and the instructional designers that are part of your program can really do for you. And before we get into some of the projects that we all are working on and what else or what other capabilities instructional designers can do for you in your program and your college, I wanted to talk a little bit about actually what is instructional design. Can I have a show? I can have a show of hands. I don't know if you want to say something in the chat because I know there's people online. Do you know what instructional design is? Does anybody know what instructional design actually is? Lena? No? And Kim, are you familiar with what instructional design is?
I don't know if I can give a definition.
And awesome. Well, that's what we're going to go over first. And so what is instructional design exactly? And so I received this quote from a source on the e-learning coach. And instructional design involves the process of identifying the skills, knowledge, information, and attitude gaps of a target audience and creating, selecting, or suggesting learning experience that close this gap based on instructional theory and best practices from the field. And so instructional design really originated in the military in World War II when they were developing a lot of training materials for soldiers, and they developed it based on skill set, based on human behavior, and this is really where it came to be. So instructional design, as we know it, obviously at the higher education level, that's where we know it, but really it's across a lot of fields. It's in government, it's in business, it's in higher education. So it's really a process. We follow a specific model, and that model is called the ADDIE model. And each phase we touch upon in the instructional design process to really identify, the different skills, knowledge, and attitude that a learner will have, and what is missing in that gap, and then how can we close that gap and really give them all of the content and the learning experiences that they would need to succeed on the job, or in this instance, obviously, with TCS Education System and all the affiliates in their course, right? So we're going to go through just the different phases of the model so you know a little bit about what they are, and then some of the items or the products that come from that specific phase. So analysis. What is analysis, really? You're defining the requirements and specifications for a learning experience in this phase. And so a lot of instructional designers, perform or conduct a needs assessment. And that's really identifying what the target population is, what their characteristics are, where are their skills and attitude and level at the beginning of this project or course. You analyze characteristics of perhaps some emerging technologies, existing technologies, the characteristics of the environment. You can analyze or do an analysis of anything that's really necessary for your course or your learning. If you're in a business, like what your training program would necessarily be, really identifying all that you need at the very beginning to see how you're going to create your learning experience. So from analysis, you kind of gain an understanding of what you need, and we go to the next phase, which is our design phase. And from there, you're designing and prototyping any learning content or materials you will be using. So a lot of you will be designing within SME 101 currently, as if you were in like in TCSPP or any of the other affiliates. When you're creating a course, you're in this design phase. You're really mapping out, what everything is. What's the sequence of your instructional content? You're also in this phase, possibly creating some storyboards. I know for some of our projects, we've done that. We use PowerPoint and we really just design how we want something to look, what we want it to look like on the screen. And we're also selecting and designing or modifying some instructional materials in this area too. We're really designing what we want everything to look like before we move on to the next phase. We're kind of creating our blueprint, so to speak. And so are we good right so far? I want to stop before I continue on. Any questions? All right. So from the design phase, once we have our blueprint, we move on to the development phase. And that's the fun stuff, in my opinion. It's the actual creating of what you mapped out in that design phase. It's very specific. It's pretty specific. You just develop it, and you can use any different software or any tools that our team technically has. We've got some Storyline, we've got Captivate, we use Prezi. As you can see, this presentation isn't Prezi. Perhaps we're going to create a PowerPoint presentation or a Prezi presentation. This is the development. We're using the actual, we're creating the prototypes and we're creating the actual hard product in this phase. And so from the development phase, once you have everything ready to go, you move into then your implementation phase, which is where the learning happens. So your course goes live, students start to learn the new content. And if this wasn't in an educational setting, there's also this is implementation for even how facilitators will become prepared on how to teach material. So if you're, say, even in this setting, if I was going to teach professors or SMEs how to teach a course, this is when that would happen. All the design and analysis would happen before that. And then the implementation part would even be giving them like course materials and explaining how they would actually teach a specific course. Or if you're in a business, it's the train the trainer. They're going to teach new skills, or a facilitator how to actually teach their employees how to use a specific software, and so forth. So that's really the implementation phase. It's where everything happens, all your hard work gets put to the test, and you'll see what people really think in that evaluation phase. How successful was that learning experience? And so there's two types of evaluation. You've got formative evaluation, which is an ongoing feedback process. So even as you move along, analysis, design, development, you're getting formative evaluation from perhaps your peers, or perhaps a subject matter expert if they're reviewing materials, your manager, whoever decides to provide that formative evaluation. And then you have summative evaluation, which is feedback at the end of the course or learning experience, which either one can consist of as a test. How did your students or did your learners actually gain information? Can they complete the task at hand based on your outcomes? And then there's also just open feedback where they can share what they thought of the experience, perhaps in a survey, maybe even informal feedback if we're talking, having a meeting. How did you think everything went? What's your feedback? And so forth. So that's really the instructional design process, and that happens continuously in, a perfect world. You would get some evaluation, you would get some feedback, and then you would take that information and revise your courses or your learning experiences from that said feedback. And you continue the process all over again, pretty much. And so we really, as instructional designers, have a broad skill set. We have a lot of capabilities that we can use to help with course development and other projects within all of the organizations. And so I just want to go into a little bit about what are the instructional designers here at TCS and what exactly do they do. So at the biggest level, we are course developers. We obviously have been developing a lot of the courses, doing revisions, course and maintenance forms when they come in. We are very detail-oriented on developing a great course, and we really do come in at that development phase. We're not part of the analysis or the design, so to speak, but really just at that development phase. And then we also produce other things. A lot of us are part of student orientations. We create that experience for online and on-ground learners depending on the affiliates. We also create specialty courses, not specific to a program, but specific to the college. Whatever is necessary or needed, we can create that and perhaps follow that whole ADDIE model in that course development. We also were part of a Smart Sparrow pilot course where the Chicago school wanted to have some adaptive learning, and we used a vendor, and we were part of, I think, ADDIE, that whole ADDIE model a lot without the Smart Sparrow, right, Lord and Thad, I know back there. I think we followed that process, to the T. We designed, we storyboard. We didn't do much of the development, but we were part of that. A lot of our IDs create student and faculty research shells, which I know Mark and Juan will be discussing a little bit later, so you'll get to see some of that. Some of the IDs also do accreditation and curriculum planning because of accreditation, and that was specific to colleges of law. So really they're part of that design process and helping a program or a college develop that curriculum. What does that look like? And really being a part of that. And then there's a lot of one-on-one consulting for program-specific needs. I know for myself, in one of my programs, I'm doing just out-of-the-box meetings and working meetings to really get the program up to speed with whatever it is they need to be successful in their courses. Whatever that looks like to them, acting as a consultant and really helping them get to whatever final products they need to be successful. And then also, we do workshops. Obviously, we're hosting this amazing conference right now to really educate you all on what we do, on what we can offer, and what's out there. And also, I know you guys probably get a ton of emails from Educational Technology, who's also part of ID, and all the amazing software that's available to use. And so we really want to just showcase, all of the other great things that we can provide for the affiliates. And then one other thing that an ID has done in our team is setting up exams with Proctor. Again, everything is based on what the program needs, and we really want to be able to help you be as successful as possible and really use us. We have so many different backgrounds on this team. We're so well-rounded. I think that's the beauty of our team. Some are like specifically like, I have a master's in instructional design. There's so many other instructional designers that have HR experience and consulting experience and are actual professors and SMEs. We have such a range of skill set that we really want to be able to provide you whatever it is necessary to be as successful as possible in this realm. And so with what we do, what else can we do and what can we do for you besides all that I explained currently that's in place? What's the future kind of look like? So really continuing along faculty development and even professional development from the instructional design perspective. So being able to really just give you any tools, tricks, tips on how to use Canvas, on how to use any of the additional software that we have access to, being in collaboration with you in that. Like, we really want to be involved. We want to help you succeed in any way possible. And we're here for that. Evaluating any current instructional materials or future instructional materials that you would want to use in your courses or in your program. That's something that we can offer as well. Outcome alignment. Obviously, Tracy did a great presentation on learning outcomes and how that alignment works. Perhaps you want some guidance, or you would like us to collaborate in how to make that, how does that look? How do we create rubrics in conjunction with those outcomes? These are just some of the additional things that we can do besides what we already do. And we're really looking forward to helping you in any of those needs. So I know I spoke a lot and rather quickly. So that's really the gist of this team. Like I said, we are eager, excited, happy to really get your programs and, your schools and whatever place you need to be successful for the student. And that's really our end goal, and to collaborate with you in that respect. So I just want to open the floor to any questions that you might have about current projects.
Nicole, yes. If I wanted an instructional designer to work with me, how would I go about that?
Oh, well, that's a great question. Gia, my wonderful, amazing manager. So yeah, if you do want to work with an instructional designer and you haven't worked with one before, Gia Graves is the director of instructional design. I would definitely recommend reaching out to her and letting her know what needs you might have, and she can point you in the direction or assign an ID to help you with a specific project. And also, if you're already currently working with an instructional designer, I encourage you to strike up a conversation, have a meeting, really discuss what it is that you want to do. I always like to say with some of my programs, dream as big as you want, and really just think about all the bells and whistles that you would actually want to happen, and let's see what we can do. Like, what can we get to? And it might be building blocks and it might be a process, but at least we get to start to add more interactivity. We get to really assess your learning and see if we need to add any other instructional materials. And, maybe we need help with getting Quality Matters and Quality Matter courses, better in the course. Whatever it is, just use us as your guide, as your consulting, guru, to really just help you in whatever way. It's a working relationship. And we really just I think we all have the same goals in the end, which is to be super successful for our students and to create very effective and efficient learning. So, yeah. Any other questions? I don't know if there's any questions online. Yeah.
Non-faculty or non-courses plan, but their student-facing departments save the library?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's actually great. I didn't even mention it, and I'm thank you for pointing that out. Mark Lab did do a tutorial for student facing using Canvas. I, in the past, have created tutorials for financial aid and how do you apply for financial aid or register for courses. So, for instance, with the library, if you wanted us to create a tutorial for students or non-students, whatever it is that's necessary, we can go ahead and create a tutorial that you can pass along to your employees, perhaps. We can do any training along the lines of your employees. I did like some training for HR for TCS. So we really are available to do other things along that realm, not just specific to program. So yes, definitely reach out. Definitely reach out and connect. So
we have at least one question I see is, how are instructional designers available to collaborate with adjunct faculty members? And also, is it only for new courses?
That is a great question. As far as adjunct faculty, I'm going to pass that off to Gia. I would say reach out. I would say reach out to the department, and we would.
Yeah, that would definitely have to be something you'd initiate with your department manager. I think that would be your first step, because sometimes there are some budgeting issues related to our collaboration with the programs. But if you start there, I have really good relationships with all the department managers. And we can start the discussions from there. And no, it's not just for new courses. If there are courses that need to be revised, updated, changed in any way, shape, or form, particularly if they're online courses, we definitely want to have play our part in that. So it's not just for new developments.
Any other questions?
I think there's another one for those from the previous session. Oh wait, that's not even a question.
Okay. Well, again, if you need anything in terms of ID relationships, I recommend definitely reaching out to our department, specifically Gia Graves. And I look forward to seeing how this collaboration will continue in the future. So thank you so much.